Today, I sit down with BUSU's president, Patrick Foster. Patrick is a fifth-year political science student. He's a former employee of General Brock. He's a former member of Brock UNICEF, and he's a leader in many student grassroots initiatives, including microwaves, halal food, and student spirit around athletics. My name is David Berryman, and this is A Few Good Minutes.
Thanks for having me,
Oh, no problem. So last time we talked, you were doing candidate carpool karaoke.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a blast doing that. Happy it all worked out. Happy that didn't cost me the election, but I had a really fun time doing
that. We jammed a little too hard in that.
Definitely.
So how have the past few months been as exec? You've kind of transitioned from running as a candidate, and now you've won your election. How are things going in the office?
Absolutely. One of the things I can say over the last few months that's happened is I've learned more in the last 3 months probably than I have in my whole time at Brock. I've met with a lot of students to talk about issues that I might not have been aware of while running. So I've had the opportunity to work with Aboriginal Student Services, learn more about Aboriginal Student Services on campus as an example, but there's so many groups and there's so many students here. There's 18,000 students that I really spent the first few months kind of learning and trying to narrow down what I want to focus all my effort on. So I had a lot of meetings with people, a lot of stakeholders, students, and trying to determine where my efforts are best bet to put.
Of the 18,000 students, 1,000 know what the president does. Explain to the other 17,000 students what's your role.
So my role is basically I'm the spokesperson for the Brock University Student Union. I work with the vice presidents to ensure that our vision for the student union is carried out. That it's not just a vision, that something materializes from it.
As well, you kind of take on your own special projects, whereas the VPs have like their set mandate. Like the VPFA does transit and does administration. VPSS does O Week and homecoming. But you're kind of special, whereas like you're the head of the organization. You can kind of take on your own projects. What projects have you taken on this year?
Absolutely, and part of the reason I ran for president was because I love the freedom of that. The projects I'm going to be taking on specifically this year are a lot of projects really to celebrate the diversity we have on campus. One of the unique things about Brock University is the amount of international students we have, the religious diversity we have, the cultural diversity we have here on campus, and I think it's something that we really need to start celebrating because it's something the students want. Specifically, a few projects that I want to do is Black History Month, really have the biggest Black History Month of all time on campus. Last year I founded Diversity Week. I want to increase that, so help showcase clubs that come from a diverse background a bit more. And then several very small initiatives around mental health, sexual violence, and other categories like this. But I basically go to where I'm passionate or where is needed.
Cool. So we had a conversation a while ago, and you were kind of talking about St. Patrick's Day and how Jacobson last year was a big party.
Yes.
And the city of St. Catharines, they were good about it, but at the same time, it obviously brings up some red flags for them. Have you been working with the city on ensuring that like everyone's safe?
Absolutely. So one of the great things about this job is, I have the ability to change situations that aren't perfect. So there's a problem there, but the good thing is there's an opportunity to create a solution. So I've met with the mayor of the city of St. Catharines, Walter. He's a great guy. And one of the things we came up with was providing garbage bags, cleaning equipment, so to these students that have somewhat been partiers, so that way in the next day we can go and we can help clean up the community so they see, okay, we're not only just these party animals here to destroy the city, we're also really involved in cleaning it up because at the end of the day, this is our home, this is where we're coming to make our lives better, and a lot of students decide to stay in this community and make this community better. Or the day after St. Patrick's Day, I really hope to have a big force of students there to help clean up the street and show the community that we care about them and that it's our community too. So although yes, we do like to have fun, we do like to be safe and we do like to keep our community clean.
Are you going to be putting around waivers for volunteers to clean up the next morning? Or are you hoping that like you could just drop off a garbage bag at each door on Jacobson and hope that they wake up in the morning, clean everything up?
Absolutely. We do have a strategic plan we're making so that the day after St. Patrick's Day is not just me messaging a few friends, hey, let's go clean up the street. We're going to work with our volunteer coordinator, Kunari Lache, to coordinate some volunteers to make sure that the cleanup effort is done adequately. but also too, I've reached out to a few clubs and a few external groups that have been known as somewhat partiers that want to improve their image in the community.
Okay.
They reached out to me saying, hey, how can we improve our image in our community? And this is one of the ways I suggested about going to it.
That's great. Yeah. And another interesting thing you've done as president so far in the little time that you've been president is you've visited a First Nation territory.
Yeah.
So tell me what you did there and anything you've learned.
Absolutely. So one of the things I acknowledged when I became president of the student union is there's a lot of areas where I'm not an expert on, or a lot of areas where I just don't have a lot of knowledge on. One of these areas was Aboriginal Student Services. I wanted to better understand where Aboriginal students come from. I wanted to learn about the history of our nation. I wanted to learn the history of where these people come from, the conditions they come from, culturally, what their background is. So basically, I decided to reach out to Aboriginal Student Services as a way to educate myself. So throughout the year, I make better decisions to represent them. It's tough to represent a community that you don't understand what they want. So luckily, I met with Sandra Wong from Aboriginal Student Services. They took me in with warm arms. They invited me up to an Aboriginal youth retreat. I had a phenomenal time. I learned so much in that 1 week. I really think everybody should take some time to go and have an experience like that. And I look forward to working with Aboriginal Student Services, and I'm happy that our working relationship now is very strong.
That's cool. Cool. So when you were running for president, Humans of St. Catharines did a profile on you. And in there you said you don't like politics. Yeah. Now that you've won your election, you're president, you have to deal with politics. How has your experience been? And do you think that your view as a student who wasn't really involved in the student politics before, gives you a different view?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of what I meant by that statement where
Yeah.
I say I don't like politics, I actually hate it, is I hate elections.
Okay.
I love being able to facilitate change, though. So that's the main reason I ran. It's really tough to do an election. It can be draining. I lost a lot of weight during the election campaign period. But now looking back on it, now that I'm here and I have the opportunity to work with so many students, affect so many students' lives, work on so many initiatives, it's been nothing but a blessing and privilege to be here. So although politics and the backdoor politics can be a bit frustrating sometimes, I'm truly honored and blessed to be able to facilitate change in my community.
Nice, cool. So we're just going to dive straight into your platform.
Okay.
So the first point you had was affordable food. So actually, you and Julia, the Vice President of External Affairs, have a lot of platform points that kind of matched up, which is great because you got twice the power behind these initiatives, and some of them are very essential on campus, and one of them being affordable food. So we've just moved the food bank to General Brock, which is where you used to work. Do you have any other plans for affordable food on campus?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of little things we can do, and one of the things I think we can do better is utilize our own student union spaces. I come from the General Brock store. That's why I worked for 2 years as a clerk there. And before I was elected, one of the initiatives I did, as you mentioned before, was getting halal food there. It's in the form of a chicken shawarma plate, a beef shawarma plate, and a falafel plate. It's affordable. You can get filled. I can't finish a whole plate. And it's also a diverse food option, which is awesome. One of the things I'm looking forward to doing is increasing more hot foods at the General Brock store, working with Heather Hill there. And we've reached out to a few partners. Here's an exclusive. So Jollof is what we're working on right now. We just have to make sure it's right, so that way it doesn't affect the sales of the shawarma in any way. But we're really trying to increase food diversity on campus, so more vegan options, more halal options, and making sure it's affordable and healthy for students.
That's great. We introduced Fed Up, the Affordable Food Project, a few years ago, and then last year we decided to defund Fed Up. Where do you think the project went wrong, where you feel like we can succeed?
Absolutely. So where I think the Fed Up project went wrong was just a lack of transparency. I think a lot of students didn't know what was going on, and I think that is why the students chose to de-ratify them.
And Fed Up was a direct response to the current contract with Sodexo on campus with the university. Do you have a stance on the Sodexo contract? Do you believe that they're nutritious, appetizing, and good for student budgets?
My thoughts on the food provider on campus is that there are certain logistics that go into running food cafeteria to provide food for 18,000 students. It can be frustrating sometimes with food prices, but I found personally for myself, being a student that's had to work many jobs while a student to be able to afford things like food, I find one of the best things students can do is use alternative methods. So for example, yes, Sodexo prices can be somewhat expensive, but there are days where they have $5 meals, maybe target those options, but there are also alternatives, and I would strongly encourage students to check out the General Brock store in Union Station because we're able to provide food at a much more affordable price.
And then another platform point of yours was mental health initiatives. What plans have you and Julia been working on this topic?
Absolutely. So I'm extremely passionate about mental health. I lost a friend, Mark Taylor, a few years ago to mental health. And one of the initiatives I've been working on is there's a program. There's many programs like it. It's somewhat similar to the Friendship Bench program, and it's basically a bench that acts as a friendship bench. So just say if I see you sitting on the bench or you see me, you'll sit down beside me and say, Pat, how's your day going? It's basically, if you're sitting on this bench, it's yellow, you're open to conversation, but also on the bench, it acts as a billboard. So here it might say the Canadian Mental Health Association and have their number, address, and just places on the bench where to get help. So it's just another way to destigmatize the issue, because if there's a bench, it's yellow, everybody sees it. Carleton had great success with it. I met with their president, Fahad Ataba, who explained to me how big of a success and how impactful it was on their community.
And then your last platform point was transparency. How do you plan on being a transparent president while also recognizing that a lot of your work or some of your work is behind closed doors?
Absolutely. So there's a great need to be transparent to our stakeholders. Who are our stakeholders? The stakeholders are our students. So one of the things this means is it's not necessarily only when there's an unforeseen incident and something bad happens, we come out and say, hey guys, we messed up, we dropped the ball. Yes, when we make mistakes this year, we will be speaking on it and about how we can improve it. But a lot of transparency and comes from letting students know what we're doing, because every student pays into the student union. So letting them know what we're doing with their money. So for example, if we're doing initiatives for mental health, if we're running an Isaac's Army event, letting students know, okay, this is something Brock University Student Union is doing for you. So that way we can get the feedback if they say, hey, listen, what Isaac's Army did this week, we don't like it. What you did with this initiative, we don't like it. That way we can change it. Or vice versa, which I hope is the majority of the time, is, hey, we love the effort you guys put into this. We love that you guys took on this initiative, so that way we can do it more.
And will students have more access to the president this year, or will you just be providing these updates to students?
I really hope I'm the most accessible president of all time. I really encourage students to reach out to me personally. I love talking to them in person. As much time as I have possible to spend with students, I'll be spending with this year. One of the things I'll be doing strategically to make sure I have a high level of engagement with the students is club events, athletic events. I want to go to them all. So given that I'm not on a CASA, USA conference, I'll be at as many events as I can. And if you have a club event you want me to go to, I want to go to it. So please reach out and invite me. I'd love to go.
Cool. So thanks for taking your time out of your day to talk to me.
Thanks for having me, Berryman.
Not a problem. So my guest today was Patrick Foster, president of your Brock University Students Union. And I guess one of the largest platform points you had was sexual consent and sexual assault support. And recently, with current events going on at Stanford University with Brock Turner, and even here at ourselves with our professor, do you think that more students are going to be engaged in the conversation?
Yeah. And that's, it's unfortunate circumstances, but we're hoping that because of those unfortunate circumstances, people are going to want to be involved, and people are going to be more aware of these issues. People are going to familiarize themselves with what consent actually is. I don't know if there's an actual full understanding for a lot of students what consent actually entails. So having those consent trainings, that was a big part of what I want to see. So really pushing for that education aspect as we move into orientation week especially.